Okay, and so should I make a comment about your hat?
You can make a comment. I'll make a comment for sure.
Okay, so you want to get started?
Let's get started. Ready?
I'm ready.
Ready, Freddy. All right. Well, welcome to Talk to Ya, the father and daughter podcast you've never heard of nor asked for. I'm Ari.
And I'm Aaron.
Welcome back.
So what's happening? I see you have a hat on now.
Yeah, I couldn't let you be the only hat guy. I think you were getting a little too much credit last episode. Had to take some of that spotlight for myself.
Okay, and so you've got Los Angeles on your hat, and it's all bedazzled.
LA baby.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm an LA rep now. I've been here 3 years. I think I can safely say I'm a Angelino as they call them.
Well, I think you're a two-timer. Okay, is what I think you are.
Yeah,
and that's fine. Okay,
that's what they all say about me.
Since you and your sister and my son-in-law moved down to LA, I mean, obviously 49ers are my team, right?
Mine too.
And my second team was the Oakland Raiders, but now they've gone to Vegas, and so I've moved out of the Raider thing, and I'm down to the LA football team now. Okay.
Justin, don't mind me. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, it's not like I'm going to Dodgers games or anything like that, and I would if that was like free, but it's not like you're gonna see me paying out of pocket to see those bozos play. I'm just kidding.
Well, right.
Not a single bozo.
Yeah, I cannot be a Lakers fan. I just can't get my heart to do that. Second, I mean, the second basketball team. So it's Warriors or nothing. All right.
Right.
End of story there.
I'm not slanted, am I? I apologize for the finagling I just had to do, but I have a makeshift ring light situation. So my mom, your wife, gave me a ring light. And which is very Libra of her. I love that. And so there's a part of it that holds your phone, and it's springs that are used. And
gotcha.
I have used and abused it so much that the springs are just broken. So I have an orange hair tie right now holding my phone.
Well, that's clever, and this is what we're just starting out in all this, trying to find out. By the way, can you hear the TV in the background?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to close the door. Okay, do you mind?
Please.
All right, thank you.
I mean, unprofessional.
Yeah, I don't even want to tell you what happened last night. I went, as you know, and got a Mac Mini. Okay, and set it up, and that was easy. It was an easy setup. But anyway, long story short, and I want to go into detail. The telephone system went down in our house, and I think the hardline telephone that we have, which is an old Princess phone, which is the first telephone line coming in the house, I think that phone has failed, which is the reason why our phone system is down. But I was frantically calling Comcast and the Geek Squad last night, and this all happened around a little before 8:00. Long story short, couldn't get anybody out here, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Comcast can't come out till Tuesday. Geek Squad was like on the 24th. I mean,
they all got dates for Valentine's.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I wish it was. I'll tell you what it is. Unfortunately, it's lack of employees on these big companies, which I understand through COVID, and I don't want to go there. But this is the problem. All right. Anyway, so we got a lot of feedback from our listeners, right?
Yeah, we did.
And I think you and I are very happy about the feedback, and I think everything that most people said was absolutely true. So the good news was you and I have good simpatico. They really think the father-daughter thing is really good.
It's buyable.
It's buyable, right? They like they like our flow. They think we're funny. All that great. What they did mention was too many of those, the laughter or the all that kind of stuff.
Oh, our noises, our bells and whistles.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. I listened to the podcast again last night, the one we did, and there were only a couple of that I thought were
unnecessary.
Yeah, but the other ones I thought were pretty good. So
listen, I think because we are visual, we're used to having that kind of maybe visual we lead with the visuals. Even if we're just listening, we can kind of get that idea. But if
Yeah.
you're just listening for the first time, I can see how they don't make sense in certain parts, especially when it's like strictly visual to audio, you know? Like, but at the same time, I was kind of experimenting with doing the Gen Z, for all those who remember Vine type editing, where it was very overdone in order to kind of push my Gen Z agenda. Because, you know, even though we are bridging the generation gap, there's no way I'm going to let go of my competitive nature.
Gotcha. When you edit all this, we'll hear it again. But I was very happy with. I thought it was kind of cute. Anyway,
there's gonna be like a boing after that.
But anyway, I was talking to several people, about it. One of them was my friend Larry, and for those of you that don't know Larry, the ones that are friends of mine do. Larry's now 90 years old. Okay, I met him when I had a gay disco in San Francisco. I actually had the largest gay disco in San Francisco with some partners, and Larry owned a disco as well called the Palladium, and then he also had 4 or 5 topless clubs. He was a topless club owner here in San Francisco back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then he sold out. Anyway, he's a great guy. We'll talk about stories with Larry some other time, but it reminded me, it reminded me of a story that, okay, you know how you have a story, and of course you haven't lived as long as I have, but there's a story that maybe took place 40 years ago, and you remember that story, and you think you're accurate with it, but you're not 1,000% sure that it's accurate. So I decided
lying, no,
embellishing. Let's call it embellishing, right? So I decided to prove up what this story is about. So here's the story.
To confirm your wonders.
Yeah, about this story. So I, as you know, moved down to Los Angeles in 1979 or 80, I believe it was.
Right.
After the club, I was, I sold real estate, as you know. I did very well in real estate, but I just didn't like selling real estate. So I had some money in my pocket, and I decided a buddy of mine was going down to Los Angeles, and we were going to live for a short period of time in his girlfriend's parents' house. And the mother was in Europe. The father had passed away. The mother was in Europe. So she said we could stay at this house. So we stayed in this gorgeous home in Brentwood with swimming pool and tennis. Had a elevator that took you down to the tennis court. And we lived there for a while, and we had a limousine business, and we'll talk about that later too. But we had an office in Century City, and Susan Sarandon's office was next to our office, believe it or not. Okay, but anyway.
Oh, I believe it.
Okay. A long story short, one day a buddy of mine, and we'll talk about him again another time, Terry Quinn, TQ, who's passed away.
There's a Terry O'Quinn on Lost, John Locke.
Well, this
how to make that note.
Not even remotely close to the same person. Okay.
Doesn't need to be. Lost is my hyperfixation, and you know it. So
I loved it too.
So I can draw anything back to it. Continue.
Exactly. Anyway, we were going to lunch at a place on Rodeo in LA called the Daisy. It was a private club, and then they served food. And he said, "Meet me at the Daisy for lunch." So I meet him at the Daisy for lunch, and we're sitting down talking, and all of a sudden, this 3-wheeler Morgan, okay, which is an old kind of MG looking.
Terrible way to talk about a woman, but anyway.
And it was a wood chassis, if you can believe it. When they first built them, they're wood chassis.
Can't believe what I'm hearing.
Exactly. Pulls up, and this guy gets out of the car. He's got a little newspaper cap on him, and it's Jack Lemmon. Okay. Now, I know you know this, and I think a lot of people probably listening do, but Jack Lemmon was a very, very famous actor. He did
Some
tons.
Like It Hot.
Yeah, he did Some Like It Hot. He did The Apartment. He did the two guys. The what was it? The Odd Couple. The Odd.
Oh yeah.
Bow, right? But anyway, one of the movies that he did was Days of Wine and Roses. Okay, so Jack comes up to the table as a surprise. I didn't realize that we were having lunch with Jack Lemmon. This friend of mine invited. Okay, so we're sitting down, we're talking to him. Great guy, blah, 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 this and that. And I said to him, hey, Jack, I says, we have something in common. He says, what's that? I says, well, do you remember the apartment that you shot some of the scenes in San Francisco of Days and Wine and Roses? And he said, well, he says, I remember it was in Pacific Heights. Okay. And he says, and I kind of remember that I think it was on Pacific Avenue. And I said, was it 1800 Pacific, Jack? And he says, well, I couldn't swear to it, but I kind of remember that address. Now, remember, this movie was in 1962. We're talking in 1980, and Jack had a little drinking problem, right? So things get foggy over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, my friend Larry and I used to live in this penthouse at 1800 Pacific. And when Larry rented out the unit, he was told by the management that the movie Days and Wine and Roses was filmed in this place. So I confirmed
with the man himself.
So here's what I did. I asked Suri to take me to show me or tell me about the locations of the movie Days and Wine and Roses. I look it up. Boom. 1800 Pacific. End of story. I did remember it exactly the way it happened. He did shoot in that movie. And here's the funny thing. I may be wrong about this, but Jack was an alcoholic. Okay. And the movie is about an alcoholic marketing guy in San Francisco. Okay. So I did a little more research and I saw a trailer to this movie. And it was in the 60s. And I got to remember this. When they did movie trailers, sometimes they had the main actor do the trailer. So
right.
You didn't see anything of the movie, but and so here's Jack Lemmon talking on this trailer, basically saying, I wanted to do this movie more than any other movie I've ever wanted to do before. Ooh. And so that brought me back to, wow, he was an alcoholic. Well, maybe that was because he was an alcoholic.
There was a connection.
There was a connection there. Okay. Now, what I also remember, and maybe I'm wrong, is when I saw him, I said to myself, I don't think he drinks anymore. I think he sobered up. Okay. I ordered a drink at that meal. My buddy ordered a drink at that meal. Jack didn't order a drink.
So that man's true to his word.
Interesting little story about our little friend Jack Lemmon.
More than interesting. I mean, he was one of the most famous people at one time, and you casually had lunch with him at the Daisy. Not to be confused with the Lazy Daisy, which we have now.
Exactly.
Not a club, breakfast.
Yeah, the Daisy was a great club, and you couldn't get in unless you remember. I never joined because I was able to go in with people that were members.
Yeah.
One was my buddy Terry Quinn, of course. Another one was O.J. Simpson. I won't even talk about O.J. in this podcast. But
that's going to be its own episode.
We're going to have an episode about O.J. Simpson.
We might have to make it the next one.
Well, we'll see. I sold O.J. Simpson his condominium in San Francisco when he was playing for the 49ers, his last year that he ever played. Nicole was like 18 years old at that time.
17.
Right.
She was 17.
Fast friends of both of them, and yes, he did kill his wife. Okay, I mean that's how well I knew him. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll if anyone wants to stop us from doing an OJ episode, please let us know.
talktoyapod@gmail.com.
All right. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, one of the things.
Yeah, talk to me.
The only podcast that I had ever heard to this day, and it's a podcast that when Mom and I go down to Los Angeles to visit you guys,
Pause.
Yes.
Not the only one you've heard, but on your own accord.
Exactly. We drive down to LA, we drive up to LA. It's a 6-hour drive. For 6 hours, we listen to my favorite current comedian, which is Sebastian Maniscalco, and his podcast partner, Pete Corelli. Now, Pete Corelli is a comedian. He's really funny. He's a writer. He did Kings of Queens. He's done a lot of writing. He's doing another television program with Michael. You know the guy. What's his name? Michael. He's on the Bravo all the time.
Oh, Rappaport?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Now Sebastian was in the movie The Irishman.
Right.
With Robert.
No, yeah.
Okay. He wrote another movie about his father, who was a hairdresser.
Yeah.
And De Niro plays his father in the movie.
Which is perfect casting.
So what I'm saying to you, this guy is pretty talented, okay? And he's very funny. Him and Pete are very funny. So for 6 hours going both ways, we do nothing else but listen to Pete and Sebastian's podcast.
Hence why we're here today.
One of the reasons that motivated me to be on this podcast is because I heard it. I really enjoy what I'm hearing. I thought, you know what? I can do that. I'm not going to be as funny as those guys, but I can do that, okay? I've listened to hundreds of hours of these guys, okay? And I love Pete. He became extremely successful. You know, he sells out the Garden in New York. He lives in LA now. I think, you know, I'm trying to pin down by listening to what he says.
Wait, I thought it was Sebastian who sold out the Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
You said Pete, I thought.
Well, then, if I did,
listen.
Glad you corrected me.
Listen, I mean, yeah, that means you like them both equally.
Well, I do. I think
you don't favor one over the other.
I actually think that Sebastian laughs more when Pete tells a story than when Sebastian telling a story to Pete.
Something I've noticed, the people who laugh the most are stand-up comedians, like specifically stand-up comedians. So like a lot of like people who are in comedy, but like not just writing, like performing,
right,
laugh more than just your average Joe. And I have an idea of why that is. I think it's because it's their way of showing love, because that's what they love to hear is laughter. So I'm not saying they force it, but they let go of laughter a lot easier, and they show it a lot easier. And it's not really as much of a vulnerability thing, because it's like, oh, I enjoy this. People are going to love that I laugh with or at them, you know?
Well, Pete's talked about that actually when he's in a social situation.
Right.
Somebody says something funny and he talks about laughing and not laughing. But anyway.
Right. Yeah. The intention of laughter.
I think he lives in Beverly Hills is the way I finally have gathered it up. I'm pretty sure.
You know, put your stalker boots on and let's go.
and he's up there in the hills, kind of where, you know, like there's not a house right next to you. Okay.
Right.
And but anyway, here's my point to this story is Pete used to be a waiter at the Four Seasons in LA on.
You keep getting them mixed up, Sebastian. How do I know these guys better than you?
Yeah. Sebastian used to be, you know, it's a little early in the morning. I just kind of woke up.
No, and they don't even want to know what we just went through. I almost strangled this man through FaceTime.
Yes.
Because I was getting him to download Google Chrome on his new Mac Mini.
Yeah, I'm not a computer guy. Okay. Anyway.
And I apologize for being so violent with you.
No, don't worry. He was a waiter at the Four Seasons on Doheny. I used to live at 100 Doheny, which is right by the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so he learned how to, you know, take care of people. So during COVID especially, he would have these parties on Sundays. And it was predominantly couples that their kids went to school with.
This autobiography. Oh my God.
But also friends or whatever. But here's my point. The guy would
let's get there.
This guy would throw parties, a little Sunday party. Must have cost a fortune, and he did it almost every Sunday, this guy. And he's not a guy that throws away his money. He would have the bouncy house. He would have goats. He would have caviar. I mean, this guy would have. So not only do I think he's funny, but I admire the fact that when he does something like a party, he does it right. And I love that about him. And I always felt if I had that kind of money, I would do the same thing. Like I would order the guys with the violins and the this and the goats coming in and whatever. Anyway, that's my idol is now Pete, Sebastian and Pete.
I mean, if that's not a better advertisement, they owe us podcast commission from that alone. That was the most beautiful review I've ever heard of a podcast in my life, and I've listened to countless.
All right. Well, let me just say this. What we're talking about right now, to the 3 people that are listening, I don't think they're ever going to get to hear it. But
so insulting. We've had countless people, more than 3, messaging us, telling us how much they love our podcast. So you text messaged 165 people.
I want you to send our podcast over to Pete and Sebastian, okay, and see if
we can tag them. We'll tag them.
I know Mom, does Instagram. I think
Mom does a lot of Instagram, but like I said, we don't.
Okay.
We won't.
That's the story.
We won't get into that
with my idol Sebastian Maniscalco. Okay, now listen. Valentine's Day.
Yeah, it's Valentine's Day. That's why we're posting today, February 14th. So, yeah, I just like last time we had Fart Day. I have gathered some Valentine's Day facts for us.
Love it.
So, a lot of Valentine's history, in my opinion, is very Christian and boring. No offense to Christians. That's why I separated those words. I'm not trying to be redundant here.
Gotcha.
But from what many know, Valentine was defined by, and this is more of a historical based thing, Emperor Claudius II's ban on marriage. That's a myth. So there was a ban on marriage at one point.
Okay.
And it was because it was known to distract young soldiers' marriage.
Oh.
So they were all war-based back then. And so there was an illegal Saint Valentine would illegally marry couples and in the spirit of love, and was caught and sentenced to death. So, and there were many Saint Valentines, mind you. So it wasn't like the one. It might not be the one we might know. It was like, but it was a Saint Valentine who was illegally marrying these couples during a time they weren't allowed to get married.
Wow. Okay.
So, an ally, arguably. They didn't say they were all heterosexual. Anyway, right. So another one would be, so there were many theories for why Saint Valentine was killed, and so there was another suggestion that there was an attempt to help Christians escape prison in Rome, and that the first Valentine message himself was sent while in prison. So it was a Valentine, and it was essentially the concept of sending out a love
letter.
Yeah. And it would say from your Valentine. And that would be
it wasn't on a like the 10 Commandment thing, kind of, where you engraved it, you actually wrote it down, right?
It should be. It should be.
Remember history.
It's not just a Hallmark holiday, folks.
Do you remember when history of the world and Moses has got the 10 Commandments? He goes, and I've got these 10, and then he drops them. 9 Commandments. 9
Commandments. No, I'm so glad you brought up history of the world, because I could almost cry right now. History of the World Part 2 is finally coming to us.
Unbelievable, huh?
I am so excited, and it's going to be a television show, okay? So we get more. We don't just
produced by Mel Brooks, right?
And it's Mel.
Let me ask you this. First of all, is that our favorite movie together? History
of all time.
Right, that's our favorite all-time movie.
Of all time. Yeah, okay. Mel Brooks is our favorite director, and the History of the World Part 1.
Yeah.
Best.
So they're going to have this on television now. And I saw some of the actors. I forgot, but they're big actors going to be in this thing.
Huge. No, I mean Quinta Brunson. Oh my God, why am I forget? I'm already forgetting like everyone who's gonna be on it, but it's like big timers. Oh my God.
Well, you don't have to.
We have to watch this trailer. Everyone watch the trailer, and yeah, no, I mean it's a really good cast. They're gonna cover a lot. Fred Armisen, of course. Yeah, no, it's gonna be really funny, and I'm just so it came out of nowhere. I didn't really hear about it, and then one day I just saw the trailer for Hulu and lost my Johnny Knoxville is in it because I know that because he's the one who posted it.
Johnny Knoxville's in it.
Johnny freaking Knoxville's in it.
How does this guy get insured in a television? How do these guys get insured when they're acting in these?
For Jackass, I can't even imagine. But for any other show, I mean, yeah, I don't know. But
Lloyd of London wouldn't do it. All right, let's get back to Valentine's because I'm curious. There's some more stuff that I want to hear. What else do you know about Valentine's? Because I'm trying to figure out how this all came about.
Okay, so it wasn't until the Middle Ages till the holiday became associated with like love and romance specifically. So it was for like they believe it first started in France, and then there was a belief. Oh no, this was a belief in France that in England birds started their mating on February 14th. So it could just be a bird mating season situation, which is why we landed on the 14th.
Yeah, I didn't
which
know
it's funny. This morning specifically, I was thinking how the like birds, like I was hearing a lot of birds chirping outside, and I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful. Like I love hearing the birds, and I'm like, they could all be fucking right now, and I just think that's cute. Like that's
Okay. I know nothing about that whatsoever. Birds, what time, what month, but it's a beautiful thought.
I mean, listen, it sounds beautiful, and that's all that matters,
Wait a minute. There was this bird. Remember we talked about this bird that flew nonstop 8,000 miles? He had a...
Yeah, we talked about it on the... Did we talk about it last episode? I don't know.
I don't think so, but wait a minute. Let me look it up really, really fast if I can find it.
It reminds me, there's TikToks of birds, and they strap GoPros to them, like hawks and eagles. And it's just a bird, and it's just like a close-up of the bird's face while they're flying. I've watched it bong in hand for like 5 minutes straight before.
Oh, it's funny watching this. And wait a minute, hold on here. I know I got this somewhere, this bird thing here. Anyway, 8,000 miles. They had a whatchamacallit on them, a little thing. And I was wondering, like, okay, I understand they can go to the bathroom. This is nonstop. They're saying this is nonstop from Alaska to Tasmania, I think it was.
Yeah.
Hold on here. I got to find this thing. And I
mean, listen, doesn't surprise me in terms of like certain people can survive certain things. So it doesn't surprise me when animals can survive certain things. Okay.
8,000 miles in the air is what you're saying. Hold on here. Why can't I find this?
All right. Well, if you can't find it, next subject.
Yeah. But anyway.
Speaking of birds. Yeah. Valentine's Day has, I've always loved it. I've always thought it was fun, whether I was, I had a honey or not.
Right.
I just love pink. I love the candy. I love giving out Valentine's. I love all of it. And then, some years back into my early young adulthood, I found out the night of Valentine's Day that I was cheated on. And let me tell you, a lot of people obviously would find that devastating on the day of love, which I did. I was emotional. I'm a Cancer. It's in my nature to be a very emotional and sensitive person.
You were living at home at that time.
I was living at home. Yeah.
And I remember this night.
Yes, because I wailed.
You were really, really upset and very.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't I be?
Absolutely.
It was, it was very, and it was also, it was one of those things where it was a very caught off guard. I'm someone that had been cheated on before, and even after, the thought process in my head, I usually know when it's happening. Yeah. Let's put it that way. I knew something was up. I didn't know it was that. Long story short, though, let me tell you, it was so much fun being dramatic and in terms of being able to let it all out, because whatever I was going through, even other than that, just came out with that. And then I call my best friend Remy, who
Yep.
is celebrating Valentine's Day with her boyfriend Luca. They are together. I mean, it was at this point like midnight or past midnight,
Yep.
but still, they're together. And I tell her the situation, and then with no question or hesitation, she leaves to come over to not only be there for me, but it was between her and mom also talking to the ex of mine, which I just love because, not a lot of people's families or friends get that involved. And I love that, because this was someone that was close to both family and friends at one point, that everyone just got involved and I just got to be a baby, which, I was an adult at that point. Like, I was like 21,
Mm-hmm.
2021, 2021
Yeah, I guess.
ish. I honestly, beats me now. But, I reverted back to my childhood days of just getting to have a full blown breakdown. So, I don't think Valentine's Day is that bad. It's not like it has this, traumatic
Stigma
thing. It
for
was
yeah.
like the anniversary of a beautiful meltdown I had.
Well, first of all, I remember when you found out, and I heard literally you just breaking down, and it broke my heart. And
Yeah.
then when I found out, I wanted to literally go over to this guy's house, smack him around a little bit. But anyway, you lived through it, you survived it. You know what I mean? And I'm just happy that relationship didn't go any farther because I wasn't crazy about him anyhow.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, no, listen, and like anything like that that's ever happened, I'm always, in the words of Ariana Grande, who is my Cancer Sun Libra Moon twin and name twin. We have the same name too. Thank you next. When that song came out, I'm not kidding, that was the most beautiful, because it's about getting through these things and yada yada yada, but she has one line specifically that it's about something about meeting someone new, and then she goes, and her name is Ari, and I'm so good with that. It's about like and I'm like, and I remember listening with Remy for the first time we ever listened to it, and she looked at me and she goes, you are so lucky you get that. Like, you are so lucky you get that line from her, because we share the same name and there's not a lot of people that can share that lyric with her. And oh my god, I mean, that just began my fixation on Ariana Grande.
Well, I think she stole that title, believe it or not, from me and two friends of mine.
Thank you next.
Well, Next Please was the
those are
book
different.
that two of my friends were going to write back in the mid 70s. Okay, it was a very I don't
Let's put it this way, before you even get any further, it was a dating book, and we can leave it at that.
It was a dating book.
And that's it.
And we called it Next Please.
We don't need to
meaning one goes down, the other one, next. But
this isn't an alpha male podcast, okay? This is.
But here's the point. One of the single guys, the English one, he met a woman, and to make a long story short, there was no computers in those days. We hand wrote everything, and then we gave our stories to the English guy because he was the only one that went to school, went to college.
The only literate one.
And he was the only one who was literate, and he was very literate, right? And so he had stacks of pages for me and my other buddy Sam, right? And, and
of course Uncle Sam was a part of it.
Of course. And when he started going with this gal and they started living together, she literally burned all of our pages, and the book was never written.
I'm her biggest fan. I love her. I love her. Oh, I'm sorry. You lost me for a second.
I lost you for a second. All right. Anyway, all right.
Well, listen.
Yeah.
Certain things are just meant to happen. And maybe, that book could have been your demise. So
no, absolutely right. I think
God bless
today's
her.
world, that book would have been misogynistic in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
We were trying to be honest with how we felt about it. But anyway, I don't want to go.
Well, of course, and you were wrong, and that's okay.
And we were wrong. All right.
No, and if that ever got published, of course I would make and it became a thing. I would make the book, the reverse,
Well, you'd be
and publish
embarrassed.
it.
First of all, you'd be embarrassed through your entire lifetime. Okay.
Well, of course, but you know how I deal with embarrassment.
Yes. Okay. I do know.
I'm a professional at handling embarrassment, okay? I'm the opposite of Michelle Obama when it comes to embarrassment. When you go low, I go lower,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. I'm with you there, and I'm the same way. All right. The Valentine's thing. I think that's very interesting. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Uh,
Listen, I'm still very pro Valentine's Day. I think people don't like it when they don't like lovey-dovey stuff, or there's a lot of people who are like single and hate that. I am so like, that is bullshit to me. I love is in the air always, but I love a reason to wear a bunch of pink and eat candy and see people love each other. That's
there isn't a holiday that Mom missed who didn't show you about what Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's another thing
You
too.
got this on this
Yeah.
day. You got that. I mean, they always. She was always celebrating holidays with you, and So I mean,
Moral of the story: I like Valentine's Day because I'm spoiled.
Yeah. But anyway,
Another
and that's the way we quote unquote brought you up.
Yes, and listen, it's so funny you say that, because I've been thinking a lot lately about like how I've been brought up versus ways I've just adapted that are just what you guys do. And like, even growing up, there's things that you guys would do and I'd be like, why do you do that? And now I do it.
Sure.
Like, for example, growing up, I always wondered with Mom, knowing how much like penny pinchers we were growing up with, saving and coupons and all that. I'm like, why do you spend so much money on the lottery when you know how likely you're not able to get, win?
Right.
Guess who's playing the lottery now? All the time. But let me tell you, let me justify it for a second.
Yeah, let me hear the justification for that.
Let me justify it for you. I'm not just pulling money out of the bank. Like, I don't really have cash on me just all the time. How I justify it is, if I ever have just $2, I know for a fact I'm either giving that money away to a homeless person, which honestly, because I'm just not really going out as much and walking around a lot anymore, I'm just not really, running into as many, So
Right.
I usually just, or if I'm running errands and I'm at somewhere where there's a lottery, I'm like, I'm not going to spend anything else on this, so I'm just going to do the lottery. On top of that, when I used to work in the cannabis industry, I would get a bunch of cash tips and so many coins. And I had this big jar of coins for the longest time that I, of course, took all the quarters out of. So it was just dimes, nickels, and pennies. And so for a couple weeks, up until I found my local Coinstar, I'd been taking a handful of, 20 dimes, going to my nearest wherever had whether gas station, pavilions, whoever has a lottery, and giving them 20 dimes. And every single time, funny enough, and I'm just realizing this, I would intentionally go to different spots so I wouldn't run into the same person and be embarrassed that I'm coming back with 20 dimes again. Because every single time I do the same thing where I come with my 20 dimes and I say, I'm so sorry, I just have dimes right now. Like, I can't go back there and show my face again and say I just have dimes again. Like, no, I can't do that. So I was bouncing around until I finally found a Coinstar. I sacrificed the $2 they take from you and got $20 out of it.
So you made $18 on that one.
Yeah, listen, and like, I'm confident my ticket, which, by the way, finding out tonight, Valentine's Day,
yeah,
that I will be winning my Mega Million.
All right.
And I am my mother's daughter.
You are your mother's daughter, and I know that there was something that we wanted to talk about when it came to bringing up children. Do you?
Yes. Okay. So, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I have been watching The Parent Test on Hulu lately.
What is it?
The Parent Test.
Oh yeah, The Parent Test, the show. Yeah.
And once again, free advertisement. You're welcome, Hulu. This is a show, one, I think is really important. Two, is extremely entertaining. I love anything family-based or psychology-based like this. And it's essentially, they get different parents from that are specified. They take certain parenting and go by that certain type of parenting, whether it's intensive parenting, new age, natural, free range,
Different
strict,
parenting style.
traditional, all the parenting styles from different cultures, different, but everyone that they have, even if it's like anyone is extreme in their ways, everyone they invite is like extremely like into their parenting style. Like, it's not in a bad way, but like they're really smart people who like know what they're doing in terms of parenting, even if I don't agree with them all the time. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I'll see something and I'm like, I can't believe that person does this. Or like, for example, like one of the traditional parent who I ended up agreeing with a lot, and I was, to my surprise, because I wouldn't consider my style tradition, but I guess it is. She called out another parent who everyone liked their parenting, but said, like, you do everything right, but you spank your kids. Why do you do that? And like, there's certain things I'm glad that they're talking about, because so many people make light of, versus like, of course it's important to praise parents and understand what they're going through, but it's a really big accountability show. And for me personally, who, I'd assume I'd want kids one day. Like, that's what I would want, because I know I'm good with kids. And if anything, I would just I again want to do what mom does, is be a stay-at-home mom. If I have kids, is like be with my kids all the time, because I'd be so into my job as a parent, like these people are.
Well, that's admirable. You're very good with kids. First of all, I remember you worked at what's the place with the blocks and the plastic?
Yeah, the Lego place.
The Lego place when you were in high school, and then you taught tennis to kids under 10 years old. Was it under 10, kind of in that range?
I would teach kids as young as like 4 to like sometimes like 14.
So that was the highest at these private schools here.
Yeah.
So, and I remember, you coming home and not bragging about it, but saying, hey, these kids really like me. The parents really, and I know you, and I've seen you with kids. It's like with dogs. You're good with kids. You're good with dogs. So yeah. And listen, I'm patiently, as you know, waiting to be a grandfather. So no rush on that.
Listen,
your sister's 30 now. She's got some things going on that right now I don't know if they should have children, because they're working on some stuff. But I'm thinking, another 5 years from now, come on, baby. And I'm 71.
Now listen, hey. Again, if this podcast can do anything, find me the parent of my child.
Okay.
That's where we're going from here.
Very
so I'm going to talk
right.
about parenting style, and if anyone agrees with this, aka once again, Kaylani, this is my second time. Don't make me look desperate. I know you have a kid already. See how I do, and I'm amazing. No, but yeah,
All right, so give me some. I don't know, were there some examples?
I was gonna say, I'm thinking we can go over certain things and how you and I would handle it, and see how much they add up. Even though you did raise me, so let's see how much we still agree on. So the first one, this was like the one in their main advertisement, was trying to convince their kids to jump off a big diving board. And 9 times out of 10, the kids were too scared to right away, because it was a big ass diving board. So if you want to start, how would you go about that? Getting your kid to jump off a big diving board?
All right, well, first of all, as you know, we have a swimming pool at the house here. You grew up with a swimming pool. But here's the deal.
It was a garden pool, so no diving.
It's only 4 feet deep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a real plastered pool. Well, now it's Pebble Tech pool, but real pool, in-ground pool and everything. But here's the thing. It was only 4, and here's why we made it 4 feet deep, because you guys were very, very, very young. I mean, I think the pool was in before Ariel was born. I don't remember. I think so. That's not the point. We didn't want you kids diving into the pool, or having your friends diving into the pool, for insurance reasons for the guests, and for you guys not to break your head. And 2 is we did it because we didn't have a heater on the pool, but we didn't need it because it's only 4 feet deep. So with the sun and the blanket and all that, blah, blah, blah. So, and we never taught you how to dive, right? We never said, oh, this is how I dive. Here's my point, and you give me your position. Has a lot to do with the age of the kid, how much experience they have in swimming, And then, even with all that, there's no reason why you should make that kid dive off the pool. Kids, if they decide they want to dive, they're going to do that on their own.
Yep.
It's not a necessity, therefore it's something I wouldn't push.
There you go.
What's your position?
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, no, this is how I feel. And a lot of the parents at first thought the task was to force your kid to jump off the diving board. So a lot of them, especially the intensive parent, the high achievement parent wasn't in that one. But no, like people who thought, okay, the goal is like, we have to do this. You know what I mean? My view is, and this is what the new age parent did, which I, so far I'm agreeing with a lot of what they're doing because they have a little bit of everything. They were like, okay, how do you feel about this? How about take a look at it? Okay, no, like it was just kind of like, giving your child the opportunity and not pushing it, but also like giving them the chance to even try it, and then another parents were saying, do you want me to do it first? I would probably do that. You know what I mean? If my kid was like, and this is if they're thinking about it. If they're just like, no way, I want to go home, we're going home, but if they're like, I don't know, like that means there's like a curiosity about it. And I agree with you. Depends on how old they are. If they've done this before, you know what I mean? There was, I think at some pools, there was like a shorter level diving board. So one parent had their kids go on that one first. How do you feel about that? Good. All right, let's go to the big one. So it's just about taking steps and knowing listening to like what your kid actually wants in that time.
There's the key right there. Listening to your child, which is
that's all it is.
Your mom and I tried to do with some success and some failure. Okay. What?
Well, judging how this morning went, I'm just kidding.
What are some of the other subjects that they were talking about?
All right, so the next one, and I already know what you're going to say about this because this is something ingrained in me.
Yeah.
Answering the door whatsoever.
No.
If a stranger knocks on the door.
Not even at your age.
Okay. Yeah. And I agree. When I come home, someone knocks on the door, I'm like,
nope.
I don't know if I want to get that.
No, first of all, as you know, we have a security camera system.
Yeah.
We have an alarm system.
Right.
We have a ring at our front door. We could be in Paris. Somebody can come to the door, knock on that door, or ring that doorbell, right?
Right.
And we could act like we're home.
Exactly.
Not, So the ring has really kind of stepped up this whole thing about answering. There you go. About answering. But
low battery.
Yeah, no, kids should not be answering the door under any circumstances whatsoever. And they should be quiet enough where the person can't hear them so that they would think only the kids are home, not an adult. That's my opinion. No, is that yours?
Completely agree, 100%, because you never know. Even as an adult, you always are checking before to see who it is before answering the door.
Sure.
There's so much out there. You never know. Doesn't matter where you live.
Yep.
Any dangers out there. There was actually a controversy on the show with that challenge because one of the parents, a pair of the parents were so emotionally disturbed by the concept because, it's like, oh, it's hypothetical, but we don't want to even see a visual of a stranger knocking on our kid's door who could be like acting as a predator. And so like they only didn't like that because their kid swung the door open and they actually asked for that to not be shown on TV, which I understand that. I completely understand if you don't want someone to see how vulnerable your kid is to that. Right. I get that. But another parent made a really good point of like, I'd much rather have this fake scenario play out so I can teach my kid that lesson with people there to, and knowing I'm, right outside to protect them, than that becoming a real situation down the line. And like, that is, if anything, an added, like the show is helping them get to that point of realizing you need to teach your kids these dangers because look how easily they just let a stranger in.
Okay, listen, here's the other thing too. And I think I'm right about this. We never let you and your sister home up until certain ages by yourselves in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't even be home by yourself.
Yeah, but even, let's just say, even in high school, I remember mom would say, hey, someone's going to work on the blah, blah, blah. don't answer the door. Just they know to go in the back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They, you know,
Yeah.
like someone, you know, the spider guy is coming, and you know,
Yeah.
like it's just like it was always that. And so even people we trusted, and this is what we're gonna get into. Another thing, this was another challenge where they had a friend of the family that, so someone the kids knew pick them up from school, but the parents never told them so and so is going to pick you up from school. Exactly.
Nope. Again.
Nope. And I would know that too, because I even knew like you were so adamant about knowing like we're not like we're basically I'm seeing a mom, or even if you were picking me up, I would know that day. You would, like, you know what I mean? Like
we'd inform you
down to those details. Like,
and here's the thing. This goes for families, and we know some families like that. We will not name. You have to be communicative with your family,
big time, especially when you have kids underage.
Right? There's got to be this understanding that we're always communicating with each other. We're always letting each know where we are, and we gave you guys, especially when you were teenagers.
I'm still listening.
Some rope, to go out, on your own, et cetera, because we felt you guys were responsible, and we were about 75% right. But, right. But anyway, my point is that you have to communicate, and you have to know if for some reason mom couldn't pick you up from school, then somehow she would have to get to you through the teacher and say, hey, I'm not making it, Joni's picking you up after school. Okay. It's just the way it was. Okay. Yeah. And I still think to this day that's the way it should be. It's not a matter of even people that that's not the point of the story. Okay.
It's because also like, and not to bring up the dark statistics here, a lot of those dangerous situations that people fear about happen from people they know.
Yeah, no, I mean this does happen. Okay.
So it's just like it's one of those things where I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my phone charged. I don't want us losing service here. Listen, and I'm pro Mac products. I just convinced you to get a computer, which this doesn't make a difference in terms of computer. But the battery life is just never going to be the same again, for phones.
Yeah, I don't even want to go in. Well, okay, I will go into one part of the phone. We get bad reception at this house, as you know.
Oh my God, what you guys been dealing with.
Okay, so I have an iPhone Pro 11. Now, we both know the story with Apple. And of course. It's built-in obsolescence, that in 2 or 3 years, they make sure that your phone is just not functioning proper, so you have to get another one. We all know that. It's out open now. They'll never admit it, but everybody knows it.
Right.
Excuse me. So anyway, it was getting to the point where I was calling. I spent 2 weeks home, as you know, with COVID for the first time, right? First time Mom and I got it. Where? Going down visiting you guys, right? It wasn't your fault. It happened.
I was going to say, you got it before you,
So let me tell you how you got it. And God bless his soul. One of my very dearest friends passed away a couple of months ago. And we had a memorial at a restaurant here in San Rafael. And Mom and I went. There were a lot of musicians there. He was a road manager for Huey Lewis and Pablo Cruz and Night Ranger and Paul Anka and all these, big stars. And so there were a lot of musicians there, and you know how they're very loose. And nobody's wearing masks. Okay. First of all, nobody's wearing masks anymore anyhow, except me, you, and your mother. But
no, literally.
But nobody's wearing masks. And that was on a Thursday, right? We drove down Saturday, as you know, right? And I have a picture of Mom laying on your bed with Rico, our little dog. She's exhausted, just exhausted. We thought it was from the trip. And the next day, as you know, she woke up.
She had COVID. And then you ended up getting it. I didn't get it.
And you didn't get it.
What I got was and this makes sense as someone who's gotten it twice and been boosted every which way possible. I got the weird feeling my gums were sore. I got the feeling that I'm like, oh, I know my body's fighting something, but it never
came to fruition, thank God.
Yeah.
But anyway, here's my point. So I was home for 2 weeks, when Mom was able to get in the car and drive back, we drove back.
Right.
And then I tested positive, and then I was home for literally 2 weeks. And while I was home, I'm working. I'm working every day, but I'm working off my phone. I get 150, 200 emails a day.
Right.
I answer. I'm on the phone. Blah blah
You're
blah.
popular.
And this phone, this phone is like I'm. People are cutting off, and I can't. I'm so frustrated. So I figured, okay, it's the phone. So I call up Verizon. Verizon sends me for free a new 11 Pro.
Mazel tov.
Okay. I start working on this phone and I realize the same crap. So I find, you know what? It's our house. So I had Verizon send me a network extender, which is supposed to give you better service, Wi-Fi, etc. And I'm telling you, it's working. It's still not.
Thank God. No, I mean, we grew up in a shitty reception zone.
Yeah, and I don't really. We have a lot of redwood trees, as you know, around us. Maybe, I don't know if that's the reason. There's no metal. This is not a metal framed house.
Right.
The houses next to us aren't. So I don't know why we're not that far. We're not that far off the main drag. I don't know. Anyway, so it is better. Thank God. So I'm happy about that.
And we're happy for you.
But in setting up the new Mac and all that and doing this and doing that, somehow, I don't know what, our phone service went out.
Of course.
And I thought it was me. I thought maybe I unplugged something.
Probably was.
But we have one landline phone, which is a Princess telephone, right? A little Princess telephone.
Princess phone.
And that phone is dead as a doorknob. So I think it's the actual phone itself. So we're going to get a new phone and try to hook it up and see if that happens. But here's my point. I called up Comcast. I called up the Geek Squad to have them come out here and say, hey, did I screw something up? Hook me back up.
But they all got Valentine's Day's dates.
Yeah, and so as I told you, there's nobody around, and so it's too late to do it. That's the reason why I got.
If anyone's here listening, a tech wizard, and believes that a broken Princess phone can be responsible for you not being able to print out documents and receive phone calls, please help us.
And I want you to know that phone is the first phone that comes in from the phone service. So I think that's the reason why. Okay, that's a boring story. Let's get back to the kitties. Are there any other issues that we need to...
Well, first of all, this is an issue that I know you had to grow up. I had to grow up and you had to deal with me growing up. If your kid's a picky eater. So the scenario that they gave the parents was they made him go to a restaurant that had really either like high-end food that, a lot of ingredients that kids typically wouldn't like. So essentially, and it's pre set. So they just get, it's not like they got to order off a menu or anything like that. They were just given food.
Okay.
So do you want to go first?
Okay. Well, let's start here. One of the problems is I'm a picky eater.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm going to tell you what my mother and father didn't do, which is the reason why I'm a picky eater, in my opinion. When you're babies, as you know, you get all sorts of vegetables and things, and, the babies eat it.
Right.
Right? I mean, they eat it all. There's very few things that babies turn down when they're little babies. I don't want that. I don't want that. It's baby food.
Especially with manipulation. Choo-choo train, airplane, all of that.
Right. But it's carrots. It's this. So, I mean, okay. And as they get older, because here's what we now know. If you naturally don't like something, it's good for you. Okay. In other words,
I wouldn't say that.
The stuff that we like, candy and cookies and.
Well, yeah.
But anyway, here's my point. So what should happen, I think, and we didn't do it with you guys, and my mother didn't do it with me.
I'm learning how to.
Well, she would try. There was a period when she would actually try to give us some sort of vegetable that I didn't like, and but after a while, she just gave up.
Right.
And so I was never forced. I mean, use the word forced, but uh, to eat vegetables.
Well, and I'm gonna tell a story that maybe you were about to tell yourself.
Okay.
My favorite thing you always told me was if you didn't finish your food, or didn't eat something, Bobby would go, there's starving children in Africa or China, and
Right.
you go, name me one.
Right. That's what they used to say in my day in the 50s.
Yeah.
There's starving kids in China, and I go, yeah, name me one. Okay. But anyway, I guess part of it is some kids just eat the stuff naturally and they have no problem with it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Most kids don't.
You have to like
later.
sneak it in, even if they don't eat it.
Well, there are ways. There's a bunch of new ways of sneaking food in now.
No, but no. But what I'm saying is, like, even if you just like, it's your body getting used to it, and it's not just your taste buds. It's like your body. So if you're chopping up broccoli and putting it in food, and your body is getting used to eating broccoli, so by the time you're actually eating it, it's fine. Like, this is what I did when I had COVID for the first time. I knew this trick. So when I lost my taste and smell, I was eating things that were really good for you, and taking the turmeric, lemon, pepper shots, the immunity shots that before I could not stomach because they were so intense, and because I was doing it every day, eating my salads and stuff, I got so used to that even when I gained my taste back, it's not like I liked those things as much, but I was able to eat them, stomach them, no problem. And now these are things that I actually like the taste of.
Well, again, I'm so proud of both you and your sister because you guys eat a lot of stuff that you didn't eat when you were younger.
Oh, you're telling me. Yeah,
okay.
No. And
I'm
speaking of baby food, I eat even baby food now because that has a bunch of the nutrients that you need.
That sounds crazy, but hey, if it's going to give you the vitamins you need,
it's adult baby food. It's not Gerber or anything. I mean, I have gotten Gerber before, but that's another story. But like, it's like you can get them at Erewhon, and it's like they call them like smoothies, but it's like it's just a pouch. It's the same thing,
Yeah. Believe me, I've tried everything, and it's not like I don't eat all vegetables. I eat certain vegetables. Don't get me wrong, but I don't eat enough.
Yeah,
it's always been the case. It's just all right.
What I plan on doing personally with it, my kid is I'm gonna first off obviously do the sneaking in the food, and it's about what they see you eat too. So I just have to have them watch me eat a lot of those things, and instead of doing any like making them eat anything, you want to try? No, okay, and it's gonna get snuck in their food through time until eventually they're old enough for me to tell them, like, hey, this isn't scrambled eggs, this is calamari.
Which is what we used to tell you.
Yeah, I brought it up.
Yeah. Wait a minute, but you did see your mother eat all the vegetables, still does to this day. She's like a dinosaur.
But there's a difference between her. She would do the thing, and kids know when you're trying to manipulate them too. She would do the thing, this is so good, and I'm like, I know you're lying. Like, and then also, there were times where like if I didn't finish something, you have to kids have to have some sort of free will with eating, or else eating is always going to be a chore.
Hey, listen, it's the same thing with dogs. When you have
literally
medicine, you got to hide it and put it in something good.
Yeah, and then eventually they can eat it, no problem.
But they have so many things now.
Oh yeah,
that look like one thing, but there's something else. We didn't have that.
Vegan food is revolutionary.
Yeah.
A phone call?
No, low battery.
See, yeah, we got the same thing.
All
right, vegan food, I have to say, especially as someone who's not a cheese eater or there's certain things I just there's just certain things I stray away from. Cream wise, there's so many vegan alternatives and kind of ways to mask food to seem different or just season it better, that that kind of stuff is and it's good for you. So that's the whole thing with picky eating.
All right, well, let me just tell you one more thing about that. The Impossible Burger, sorry.
I know.
And we had one of the first, as you know, because our friend worked for the company and she helped develop it. And
yeah.
We were a restaurant, and they just started serving it, and it wasn't bad, but it ain't a hamburger.
As a picky eater, it's not as easy as people say it is, and it's also really heavy. So if you're not even used to that much plant material, like it can be a lot on your stomach. I can eat them a lot easier now, and certain places know how to cook them correctly. That I'll do that.
All right, one more subject I want to talk about. You don't even know we're going to have this discussion, but they had a thing about, I guess, the most handsome man in the celebrity in the world.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's based on features.
Well, that's called eugenics, Dad, and I don't follow that.
No, it's based on the features, the jawbone, how
Dad,
close
yeah,
the eyes are, the
I
nose.
know. And those
And
are
who was
typically
the guy?
those are typically European features. That's eugenics.
Okay, wait a minute. Who was the guy that won?
I don't know.
The guy from Bridgerton.
Oh, Bridgerton.
Yeah, the African American guy in that one, the really good. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What's your point?
Is he hot? I'm asking you. In your opinion, is that a hot looking guy?
He's extremely attractive. Yeah.
Okay. So it worked.
Well, no, and you kind of.
And when you say it's
you
eugenics,
just made my point though. You just kind of made my point because he's half black, and a lot of his features, like a lot of and he's British. like I don't know.
Well, you know, my mother used to say,
"Oh,
think British,
yeah,
dress think Yiddish, dress British."
There you go. There you go. Okay, so
all right.
The last one I've got for you.
Yeah.
And this one, this was a very interesting way to see how parents navigated it. So I want to hear how you would navigate it. The kids, they would get notifications, so the kids would be in on it. The parents weren't allowed to say no for a day. So, kids were asking for unimaginable things.
Not even close.
Well, what do you do? How do you handle it? You can't say no. So what do you do?
Well, wait a minute. You're saying this is how?
I'm telling you, the assignment was they were not allowed to say no for a day. So what do you do instead? No. What do you do instead of saying no? So, I'll give you an example.
Say, I'm not going to allow you to. You have to actually. So it's just the word no you can't say.
Exactly. So
that's easy. You could say, I'm just not going to let that happen. That's one of the ways you can say it. Or sorry, nice try. Because you know me, I was always.
But that's sarcastic. Still somewhat of you're still kind of rejecting the notion. So I'll give you an example. One of the parents, the kids wanted to play with the mom's wigs and makeup, and so the mom, they start saying yeah, and the dad starts off with, do you really want to do that to mommy's things? And then the mom goes, how you treat these things right now will affect how you get to handle them in the future. So it's just all about kind of posing it as listen, if you're going to make this decision, or no, this was the best one. And I think the parents handled it wrong because they didn't understand that there's ways to say no. One of the kids asked their dad, "Can I slap you in the face?" And he goes, "Do you want to slap your dad in the face?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he slaps the dad. I would have never let that happen, and I would have first started off by saying, "Do you think that's going to hurt mommy?" "Yeah." "So do you want to hurt mommy?" And if they still say yeah, I would get to the point of okay, well, maybe let's talk about that before we get there, and then have a discussion to deflect them from actually doing that. So it's there's a way to get there without being because if you're still saying sorry, not going to happen, blah blah blah, that's still technically no. It's.
I didn't understand the
exactly
how this works.
No, it's a hard one. No. It's a really hard.
Then you have to go. Yeah, you have to talk around the subject.
The intensive parents kind of having a hard time doing that. You
have to tell them the consequences.
Exactly, of what that
Remind them, because one of the consequences would possibly be, I would never do this. Okay, listen, you can go ahead and slap me, but I'm going to slap you.
Well, the dad said, okay, well, does that mean I can slap you back? And he goes, no. And so he just didn't know where to go from there. And it's just you can't get to that point, especially if you're on camera. But that just reminds me.
You can't, it's going to hurt daddy. It's not, we don't want violence.
Yeah.
You have to talk the whole subject and make those kids. And again, listen, finally, you can be quote unquote, whatever this means, and there's no definition, the best parent in the world. Right. But you're also dealing with an unknown. The unknown is the kid. And even though you brought that kid up, there's certain things that you cannot instill in that kid no matter what. And so just because you're a great parent and you've done everything and the kid behaves themselves and they go, but there's certain things that, hey, we all, things that we did that we didn't tell our parents about when we were teenagers.
Well, that brings me to my point is it's the unknown isn't the kid themselves. The unknown's the world. The unknown is what you're dealing with and social, like the way that we evolve through socialization is whatever you're throwing your kid out into the world, that's going to come back to you. So it's not just navigating your kid, but it's really importantly navigating the world, because at the end of the day, your kid's going to reflect a mixture of you and what they're experiencing outside of that.
Well, look, you're right. The assumption, of course, has always been that when you're bringing up children, they're obviously going to be outside of the house into the world.
Right.
And those things, a lot of time you don't have control.
Because that's another influence. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, but anyway, you can only control what you can control. And Mom and Mai's philosophy is basically two basic things. One, we wanted you guys to learn how to behave yourself.
Right.
Just as children, but later in society, which you both do.
Yeah.
You behave yourselves. You're polite.
5 shots of tequila in, that's a different story, but you didn't teach me that when I was a kid.
I know, I certainly did. That you guys have a heart and a soul that, so that reflects part of what's going on in the outside world. I can count like
50 hearts on here.
Okay. So, all right, anyway, look. Parents play a huge role in the way people end up. There's no question about that. But what I'm also saying to you is at a certain point where you have independent minds, okay, that, people have to make these decisions. And when they make bad decisions in their life, I'm talking about things that are, like criminal, like whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's not to say that those parents didn't try to teach those kids the opposite.
Of course.
There's a certain amount that you just can't ingrain in your children. And they're going to do what they're going to do. But
no one's going to be born a criminal, and no one's going to be born not influenced to be a criminal. Criminal activity is done through environment and influence. And whether that's through your parents or the people around you, that's going to have an impact. Now, obviously, there's the free will. Some, people know what's right and what's wrong, and some people feel more comfortable doing one thing versus another. My point is there's levels to all of those that influence the kid. And I think not only too many parents, but too many people step away from that accountability. And in terms of something happens to a kid, we see a kid grow up, a certain way. And it's like, well, if they didn't do A, B, and C, and it's like, obviously, but also if they didn't have A, B, and C to deal with in their life, if they didn't have, this kind of friend group or this type of influence growing up, things would be obviously different, So parents, I think parents have an impact on how you let the rest of the world influence you. So what your parents give you is the capacity that you're able to intake other people. So that depends on if they raise you having blind trust. That's not good. If you have to blindly trust your parents, that means you're going to blindly trust other people. If there's just levels of that. So it's just, it really depends. And just you were raised, and this is what I always loved about Bobby growing up, is when an adult speaks to you with the respect as they would of another adult, you're going to listen to what they say, no matter how old you are as a kid. And that's how Bobby always spoke to, I know me.
Yeah, she wasn't baby talking.
Never. And
guys.
I love that. I love that communication, because I didn't like baby talk growing up. Even if I liked being treated like a baby, I didn't like the words, especially when I knew a lot of them came with manipulative language, and that never came out of her mouth. She was very real, to the point. She would give you the hard truth, which I always liked too, because that helped me get out of levels of sensitivity that people project, of oh, you have to be sensitive if someone does this, that's a bruise to your ego. No, it's not. That's just someone being honest with you. So that, I can see why you had that mindset growing up of I don't need to do drugs or alcohol because I know this is gonna mess with me, and there's no one to impress, because your parents raised you to not be someone who needs to impress people.
There you go.
But that just reminded me though, because the can't say no kind of argument, when I first heard them say that, I almost got a little I laughed out loud because on Twitter for the longest time there was this trend. Do you know what pick me girls are? Pick me. So pick me girls are literally like for word pick me. Girls or women or honestly anyone that does things to draw attention specifically from men. So like I'm not like other
Okay.
girls. I like to drink beer and do that kind of attitude. So this pick me Twitter was made this I guess prompt, which is it would usually be like a seductive photo of themselves, and it would say, if you were with me for 24 hours and I can't say no, what would you do? Which is obviously eliciting sexual responses.
Of course.
It became a whole phenomenon. It became like people obviously posting pictures, of themselves being not attractive poses or, funny pictures, obviously. But it became this whole kind of like topic of like, the people that were actually answering that question and thinking, well, like, oh, it was a prompt, so I'm going to answer it. And it's like, do you like, you would walk into a bear trap if you could, you know what I mean? It's like,
listen, we both know there's a ton of desperate people out there in this world. All right, listen.
And we're back.
So we are so amateurish.
We are.
That, and I didn't have a charging cord long enough to stick it into the computer.
Hey, watch it.
into the wall. Anyway.
Yeah, so. No, and funny enough, both of us ran out of battery. I got my charger in time, but something I realized, both of us you got a brand new microphone. I had my microphone. They're both Yetis. We were excited to use them for the first time today, and they just weren't even working. So this is amateur hour.
What the story is.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine because you know what? We're funny, and that's all that matters.
Okay. So let's go back again to what?
Well, so in conclusion about the parent test, first of all, I praise anyone who goes on that show and is able to put their kind of situation up to be criticized and to learn. And on television, that's a big deal. And that takes a lot for someone to say, hey, I want to be a better parent. I'm going to put all this on the line. So I think that, hats off to all of them. I have an idea of who I think it's going to win. I think it's going to be the new age parents because they just have a little bit of everything, they're not too strict, but they're very open. They're very, both have come from backgrounds that were, kind of more, what's the word? They dealt with things in life to get through and know what they're talking about. Just to put it that way, and adversities is the word. Right. Watching their kids kind of, are figuring things out together. So, I mean, there could be other parents that take the win. I've noticed, but I just think all around I have the same, it's just because I agree. I have the same kind of bias as them.
Yeah, no, I get it. All right, so listen, tell the folks how they can get a hold of us.
All right.
And how they can watch us.
So our email is talktayapod@gmail.com. Feel free to give us comments, questions, suggestions, advice, which we still would love to give. And if you want to see us on social media, it's going to be Talk to Ya Pod on Twitter and TikTok, and then Instagram is Talk to Ya Podcast. We couldn't get the pod, long story. And then we also are going to we're currently on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Google, a lot of the places you can get podcasts. I'm going to try and get it on every platform possible. And then, our link tree is also just Talk to Ya Pod. So if you want to find us anyway through that, Spotify is where we have our visuals. So in case you haven't seen these two beautiful faces yet, you can go on Spotify and they can do the whole visual, and YouTube. YouTube has the videos as well.
YouTube. That's the best.
We'll be YouTubers.
Okay. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. I love you.
I love you. And I'll talk to you.
And I'll talk to you. Bye.
Okay, boo. Love you.
talk to ya.